Can't you just feel it? The conflict is becoming apparent in our culture. It reminds me of those words of John Paul II. We're now living in the final confrontation between the gospel and the anti-gospel, between the church and the anti-church, between Christ and the antichrist. And if we don't choose to know God's word, to believe God's word, and follow God's word, we're going to be a sitting duck for all kinds of confusion, all kinds of disorder. Those are really important choices that people have to make.
And these choices are difficult. Who am I going to marry? What kind of life am I going to live? How am I going to raise my kids? What am I going to do with my time, my talent, and my treasure? And I have to make a choice today. Jesus says to each one of us, I came that you might have life and have it to the full. The question is, do we want it? Welcome, friends, to The Choices We Face. I'm Peter Herbeck, and I'm here today with Randy Raus. Randy is the CEO and president of Life Teen, which is a dynamic national and international movement that reaches young people in the Catholic Church to help bring them to life and to discipleship in Christ. Welcome, Randy.
It's great to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks, Peter,
I'm really excited you're here. I mean, our parish in Ann Arbor is a part of Life Teen. It's been blessed by Life Teen over the years, and it's just really a great ministry. But before we talk about Life Teen, which I really want to get to, tell us a little bit about yourself and your own journey.
Yeah, I'm a convert to the Catholic faith. I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio, and was Lutheran growing up, but my family wasn't very active in the faith. We would only go to church at Christmas and Easter, so we would affectionately call our family the Creaster family.
The Creasters, yeah.
Yeah, so when after I graduated from high school, decided to go south for college for pretty shallow reasons because it was warmer, and my best friend recommended going to the University of Alabama. So I ended up enrolling in the University of Alabama, and the Catholic population at the time at the University of Alabama was 2%. And
that's the Bible Belt right there.
Yes,
yeah.
And so in my journey, I started dating a girl, and by all means, she was Catholic, and she wasn't just a nominal Catholic, just going through the motions. She was pretty on fire. And after about a month of dating, she noticed that I didn't go to church, and she asked, would I like to go to Mass with her? So I thought I was making every brownie point in the book to go to Mass with her,
Yeah.
and we went to Mass, and afterward we went out to lunch, and after we ordered, she started quizzing me on the Catholic faith. Asking me on the Mass, and she asked me, what was the first reading? And I just stared at her. And what was the responsorial psalm? And all the way through the gospel and the homily, and all I could tell her that I thought the homily was good, but I couldn't remember even what the priest had said. I don't know if you've ever gone and zoned out at Mass,
Sure.
but that was one of those experiences.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and said a really important thing in my life. She said, how'd you like to go again next week and try? So rather than writing me off and calling me a loser or whatever it was, she saw something in me, and so every Sunday we'd go to Mass, and if I could have taken a notebook and not look like the biggest nerd in Mass, I knew I was going to get quizzed. And so I started coming alive in the faith that way, and then a couple of years later, after continually going to Mass, joined an RCIA class. And
was it like the student chapel or something on campus, or where was that?
No, it was after I had graduated, and
okay.
I was living in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
And this priest was leading us in an RCIA class, and he started to try to talk about the Eucharist. And he was a real dry wit of a priest, so he reminded me a lot of like a David Letterman.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he just started weeping and crying. And he said, I'm sorry, they really don't give us the words to fully adequately describe what you receive when you receive the Eucharist, what it is. It's a faith call on our part. Mm-hmm. And I think at that moment it just really hit me that it's real. And so I went up to him right after the class, and I'm like, I want to be Catholic now. I want to receive.
Wow.
And he said, well, you got to wait till Easter. And I did have to wait till Easter.
Being a Creaster, it was only appropriate to wait till Easter, huh? Yeah.
I became Catholic. And one of the things he told me right before I became Catholic was that we didn't need any more mediocre Catholics or ones that just go through the motions, that I needed to be active in something. I was the only person that was coming into the church that wasn't coming in to be married, for like that.
Yeah,
I was the solo person on that journey in that whole group of about 30 people becoming Catholic that was doing it out of just a desire to be a Catholic.
Yeah.
And so he told me that I needed to do something for the church. And so I thought back about my high school years, and I was a pretty good kid in high school. I didn't do a lot of stupid things, but I never knew anybody in my high school that was into their faith or even thought that was important, or they didn't speak of it. And I thought, wow, maybe I could reach out in youth ministry. That seems like an area, if I could have learned about the Eucharist and had this relationship with Christ at an earlier age, I felt like I could be much further in my faith. So I thought, if I'm going to volunteer somewhere, I'll invest in youth. And that's what started me
on the bold move.
On the journey
so
to
how did that go?
Well, at first, I think I came in with a lot of arrogance and confidence and, feeling like I'm such an on-fire Catholic. I just learned so much about the faith. You should put me up front and let me do everything, that I know I can do, and I can teach this. And a priest friend of ours, at this point, I didn't marry the girl that introduced me to the Catholic faith, but I got married shortly after to another on-fire Catholic.
Okay.
And we both volunteered in youth ministry, and we were a little frustrated that we weren't getting called on to do any leadership role. And the priest looked at us and he said, "Can you just be happy in being in relationship with young people? Your main job working in youth ministry is leading teens closer to Christ in relationship. And if you can't be satisfied in that, it's not about being up front, it's about being in relationship." And that's always stuck with me. I think it drives me every day is that ministry happens by other people experiencing it through other people that are vibrantly living it, but in relationship, not some distant thing, but
it's
ongoing.
contagious. Like C.S. Lewis used to say, you start spreading the good infection in the context of that kind of relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think God, in his great sense of humor, took me up on all my my dares to say I could lead. And after we really dove into having more relational ministry with teenagers, was led to a priest coming up to me after morning mass and saying, "How would you like to be the youth leader at the parish?" And I started a career in youth ministry, which has been just one of the most beautiful things from my life, and has really impacted my journey.
When did that transition happen? Like, how many years ago was that, when you transitioned into full-time ministry?
Yeah, it was back in 1990, so I'm one of those golden oldies in youth ministry that God just keeps using in different ways, and I'm thankful for that.
You know, it's powerful, Randy. You just mentioned 3 priests in your story who had significant roles in helping you really hear the Lord. Thanks be to God for the priests out there who are just alive in the Lord, and they're ready to call on a young man like you were, and look where the Lord brought you. So you started in full-time youth ministry, and then when did Life Teen come into the picture?
Well, I was, as a youth minister, I was standing on a basketball court shooting free throws, and a teenager walked up to me, and he had moved to our parish in Marietta, Georgia, where I currently live. He'd moved from a parish that implemented Life Teen out in Tucson, Arizona. And what he told me was this. He said, first he said, "I like what you're doing here, but I noticed the teens aren't really into going to Mass." And I was like, yeah, that's true. And he said, "I don't know what Life Teen is or anything, but I know that we started at our parish, and all I can tell you is if we were to hand the kids at our parish a calendar, the first thing they'd write on it would be to go to Mass." And that really stuck with me, because I think secretly in youth ministry, you always wonder, you want to lead teens closer to Christ, not to yourself. And you always worry about that, like, are you doing something to be popular, or that young people accept you, or that? And then when you leave, would they still have this relationship? So
who are they attached to? Are they attached to you because you're kind of cool?
Right.
Or are they attached to the Lord? Right, exactly.
So what I loved about finding out about Life Teen was that it was all about the sacraments. It was connecting teens to the sacraments. And so when a teen has a storm in their life, where would they go? You take them to the Eucharist. And it's much like when we were at World Youth Day and Pope Francis when we were in Madrid, and there was a big storm that came up on Saturday night when the Pope was about to give his speech, and he put his speech away and he sat up there while the storm came, and then when the storm moved on, the Pope prayed for the storm to leave, and it did, and then he brought the Blessed Sacrament out. He didn't continue his speech. He knew that what teens needed in storms is that relationship with Jesus in the Eucharist, and so that's what I loved about Life Teen. Finding out about it was that I felt like it connected them to the power of the Church through the sacraments, and that's the thing that drives us today.
Yeah, and so you brought Life Teen to your parish? Is that what happened then?
We did.
And then you went from there you became the CEO and the president. In a nutshell, how'd that happen? That's a big jump.
Well, the three founders for Life Teen moved on 10 years ago, and I had been involved in different levels. We have 8 children, so I know my real youth ministry,
Wonderful.
my real youth group
Yeah.
is at home.
Yeah.
So I knew that I'm pretty much an all-in person, and it's hard to
Yeah.
not be at night with where the teenagers are. So being the parish youth minister, I did that for 11 years. And then it was with my growing family, it was really time for me to be home more. And God kept providing through Life Teen opportunities for me to be home with my family and to lead more on a national level. And then 10 years ago, the three founders of Life Teen moved on to other things, and the board of directors asked if I'd come in and serve as the president of Life Teen. And I prayed about it with my wife, and we just felt called to continue to give and to try to serve the best way we could.
Well, thanks for saying yes, because Life Teen has had a huge impact on lots of people. And I know you brought a video with you to give us a kind of picture. Can you
Yeah.
explain a little bit, set it up for us before we take a peek at it?
Yeah, this is a video that parishes would look at, maybe to introduce Life Teen to them, to get a feel of what's going on with this gigantic movement of Life Teen now, because it's really growing.
Good. Well, let's take a look at it.
Great.
Well, Randy, that was really fantastic. It just it told a big story. I mean, you had New York Cardinal, Boston Cardinal, you had kids from all over the place, joy, sacraments. It was beautifully done, beautifully done. Tell us just more about Life Teen and really what's on your heart. What would you most like to say today about it, really?
Yeah, Life Teen is a parish-based movement. It's our goal to build up parish-based youth ministry. And so we provide resources and experiences for parishes that help them lead teenagers closer to Christ. It's what drives us every day. And so we have catechetical resources that we send to parishes, both for high school and for middle school. We have Life Teen is what we call the high school program, and then EDGE is what we call the middle school program. And we've seen kind of an age compression with young people these days, and what maybe 5 years ago was a 10th or 11th grader, what they were experiencing societally with the exposure to things like pornography and all of the pressures and issues is really what a 6th grader now is experiencing. And it's kind of, we're hearing that from priests from the confessional and everything. And so we've developed a large group setting catechesis model, EDGE, for middle schoolers, and it's having a profound impact. So we do resources that help people spend less time planning and more time in relational ministry with teenagers. So they can use these resources as a way of being very successful in how they would create parish youth ministry.
Are the resources videos, or is it a whole combination of things?
It's a whole combination. We still think the most vital way to catechize people is through you living your faith and through people getting up and talking about their faith, and people being in relationship, young people being in relationship with adults that are living their faith vibrantly. differently. So we have a core team of people at parishes that help with this ministry, and we set them up with tools to be very successful. And then Life Teen hosts some events around the country that parishes can come to. We have a partnership with Franciscan University of Steubenville with their youth conferences.
Oh, great.
This coming year, we'll be hosting 6 different summer youth conferences with the Franciscan University, ranging from down in Lone Star, the new Texas one that we launched this year, to Steubenville, New York City with Cardinal Dolan up there. So about 15,000 young people will go through these youth conferences in the summer, the different ones that Life Teen hosts, and over 40,000 will go through all the Steubenville youth conferences all over the country.
You know, I know these Steubenville youth conferences, sometimes they'll have altar calls for vocation pitches, like literally, because it's such a moment of young people encountering the Lord. It's not just an emotional moment, but it's really an encounter with the Lord and a living, vital body of people, and the bishops or whoever's leading often invite people to come. What have you seen through Life Teen in terms of like seeding the church with vocations and things? Yeah,
we just did a seminarian study through the NCDVD, and it's amazing. We came back, about 36% of the current seminarians in the U.S. are coming out of the parishes that are implementing Life Teen.
Wow.
So the local priests and youth ministers are doing such a good job, because Life Teen's only in about 10% of the U.S. parishes. So when you think about that, 10% of the parishes are fueling 36% of the seminarians.
Wow,
right
imagine
now.
if that was 50% of the parishes, and you could that number could really, really grow.
And that's what's exciting. We're working on some models now that'll be a more scalable model of what we do with Life Teen to get it into even more parishes, even places that maybe they don't have the resources to have a paid youth minister, but there's just people with a heart for youth that they're able to reach out to them. We'll give them successful resources and support that will help them be successful with young people in their parish.
What's the key ingredient for it to be a success at a parish in your experience? Or ingredient or two, if you'd like to say more than one, yeah?
Well, I think a key part is that the pastor, that there has to be a commitment to want to do something for youth. It's messy working with teenagers.
Yeah.
They require space, and they want to be. They don't want to be a side item in the church. They are part of our church now. It's not the future of the church. It is the church now, and they bring a vibrancy to it. So I think a commitment by the parish, primarily from the pastor, to make an investment in the youth at the parish, it pays gigantic dividends for the parishes that do that. We see it time and time again with the parishes that are implementing Life Teen. And then getting a group mentality where it's a group of people in a core team reaching out to teens, not one solo youth minister who when they leave then it all falls apart, but you have this dynamic of a community that's there supporting and loving teenagers.
Yeah.
And when those two things happen, and a commitment to really reaching teenagers through the model that we're presenting, it does amazing things for parishes.
So how does then Life Teen connect young people more directly to the sacraments as you were describing earlier? What does that look like then in a typical week?
Well, one of the centerpieces for Life Teen is a weekly mass geared for teenagers, a Life Teen Mass at parishes. We bring in vibrant music. We provide liturgy planning guides for the priests and musicians so that they can plan a liturgy that's geared for teenagers. And much like advertising today, when you gear advertising for a 15-year-old, you actually get adults listening twice.
Yeah.
And we find that within the church, that when you gear like your homily and you talk directly to a teenager for a few moments during that homily, the adults listen twice. So most masses, that the Life Teen masses around the country and around the world, there's more adults going than teenagers.
So it's not just a teenage liturgy mass.
Parish,
so anybody from the parish could come.
It's a vibrant parish mass.
Yeah. Okay.
And the adults, when you talk directly to the teens, they listen twice. It's amazing. Yeah. So there's that connection to the sacraments, and then we have a heavy emphasis on Eucharistic adoration as well to help young people to have some silent time in prayer and prayer in front of Jesus. Often opportunities for reconciliation, for them to go to confession, to be able to experience the Lord in that sacrament. So it's a natural thing for them, not just something that they experience when they're getting ready to have some big event in their life.
How do you understand, Randy, the demographics of what's happening with the millennials? I was just reading a Pew report a couple of weeks ago, and that among the millennials, the nuns, those who have and no religious affiliation, has increased to 35% of that population grouping, and that many baptized Catholics in that age grouping are drifting away and becoming, part of the nuns. Now, certainly I know young adults who are very strong and very believers, but the numbers are very sobering, more than what we've seen in the past. What do you see, and how do you tried, what can Life Teen do? Because the next step is on the college, and that's when they kind of drift away. Have you given that some thought?
Absolutely. We don't think young people are leaving the church because they come and they hear the truth and they reject it. We think young people are leaving the church because they come to church and they hear it watered down. They're not hearing the message of love and what the church really believes in. And so what we try to do in a relevant way is talk in the language of young people. Our website's getting over 500,000 visitors a week, reading
Fantastic.
our blogs. And the phraseology and how we break open the faith in a relevant way to young people is what we try to help parishes do, to really speak to where young people are at and help them tackle these difficult issues. We never dreamed that we'd be having to tackle all these issues when we didn't do this when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
So they need the church to be able to say, okay, here's how you go and here's how you approach this with love and here's how we respond as a church. The church is as relevant today as it ever has been. We just have to do a better job of helping young people to see that it is relevant.
You know, sometimes I hear Catholics and even people who are working in youth or young adult ministries say, well, we're going to just lose these young people until we change the teaching on some things, you know, like same-sex marriage and contraception and ordination of women and all this. So, I just read an article the other day from someone in Berkeley who works with young people and said, we'll never reach them without changing those things. And how do you guys look at it? What's your strategy? Help our listeners understand what you've got conviction about because you've seen it, its impact.
We disagree. What we see, the empirical evidence we're seeing with these teens going into seminary, getting married, having holy families is the more boldly we proclaim our faith and the more we give them the truth of the faith and we don't water it down and we feel ashamed for it. We need to be proud of what our faith is because it's a loving faith. It's a faith that really is saying this is the way I can be the most loving. And sometimes that's not an easy conversation. Sometimes it's hard. Young people respect it when you do that, and not only do they do that, they then disciple other people and they get other people involved in the faith. They're bringing their friends. They're bringing their families back to the faith, which is beautiful to see.
If I'm a parent watching today, my kids are raised, we're empty nesters now, but there's people watching who have children still at home, junior high, high school, and they're trying to deal with the onslaught of the cultural challenge to the church and the church's teaching. And their kids are saying, the church is so I don't want to go to the church that's so unloving. They don't love gay people, and they don't let gay people get married. And a parent is trying to answer those questions, say, what does Life Teen have for me as a parent that I might be able to get my hands on to help me navigate this stuff and know how to speak about it or put something in front of my child that's compelling?
Yeah, we and a lot of parishes are implementing what we came up with as Parent Life. It's actually a support and prayer group for parents that they can go be with other parents to help navigate these waters. The beginning of next year, we're actually launching a new parent website for parents to go to. We provide resources for youth ministers that they can send to parents to help the parents know what the teens are learning that week within Life Teen, to start a dialogue. We don't operate independently from parents. We want to support parents. And today we need to pray for parents. And there's no time out. It's not like a football game where you have halftime or anything. It's ongoing like a rugby game. And people get injured and you have to drag them off the field. And parenting it's a difficult field to navigate, and the church needs to, I think, really step up its game and really help parents to navigate all these issues and really help them in this faith journey with their young people.
In this particular area, I think the teaching of Pope John Paul II, the theology of the body, is still untapped. I know you guys have tapped it, and I know lots of others tap it. It is so powerful and moving, and it makes so much sense. But most young Catholics never hear it, and many parents don't know what it is. Do you have something on your website that can help them with this as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, check out some of the blogs on lifeteen.com, and you'll be amazed. You can do a search and find topics, whatever you're looking at. There's blogs there for parents. There's blogs how you would talk to teenagers about specific issues that they may be facing.
Would if a pastor's watching and he wants to know more about Life Teen, what should he do?
Yeah, you can go to our website, www.lifeteen.com, and there's a whole bunch of information about how you'd sign up for it. We'd be glad to help you all the way with everything. All our staff has been previously youth ministers in parishes, so they're very used to talking to pastors and helping people to implement successful youth ministry in their parish.
Great. Well, Randy, you just have to take a short break. I want to tell friends about this new booklet I've written called light in the darkness. These are challenging times, and in some ways kind of dark times, but Jesus Christ is the light of the world, and he says, you're the light of the world. And I want to talk to you in this booklet about how you can engage with Christ and he can help lead you during these challenging times. We'll be back in just a minute. Friends, we're living through difficult and challenging times. The church is in a fierce battle. In the words of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, man is pushing God from the human horizon, and as a result, the light which comes from God is disappearing, and humanity is losing its bearings. In this moment, it's crucial that we hear the words of Jesus, who said, I'm the light of the world. He who follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. I wrote this short booklet to help you lay hold of this precious promise from Jesus so you can have the strength and the courage you need to be a light in the darkness. To order your free copy of Light in the Darkness, you can go to renewalministries.net or call 1-800-282-4789. Welcome back, friends. We're here with Randy Raus, President and CEO of Lifeteen. And Randy, this has been so good. I'm inspired by what you're doing. I'm inspired by the ministry, but I know there's a whole lot more going on. Would you tell us just all the different tentacles you guys have going out to reach people?
Yeah, yesterday I was at one of our camps in North Georgia doing an introduction. We just have 20 full-time missionaries starting their first year with us down in Georgia. We've been doing missions for about 7 years now, and now we're up to 20 a year that we're forming full-time missionaries to go out and do Catholic youth ministry or to serve the church in any manner. They spend a year in formation, and then we send them out.
Fantastic.
They help us put on our summer camps. We had over 5,800 requests for next summer for summer camp spots at our 2 camps in Georgia and 1 in California. Parishes sign up their teens. They're able to go for a week-long experience. The teens unplug from all their cell phones, have an amazing experience. And then about a month and a half ago, we hosted with the Knights of Columbus a Night of Mercy at the World Youth Day in Krakow, Poland. And Bishop Robert Barron helped lead adoration for the teenagers. One of our board members is Catholic musician Matt Maher. He led music along with Audrey Assad. And it was an amazing spirit-filled night with adoration and talks. 18,000 young people inside the arena, 10,000 people listening to it on speakers outside of the arena. So it's amazing to see how Lifeteen is growing. The movement is growing in places like Spain and other countries. But our heart is all based on wanting to lead teenagers closer to Christ and provide parishes with opportunities to do that, and partnering with these parishes so that they can lead their teens closer to Christ. So it's exciting.
Yeah, thank you so much. And friends, I don't want you to miss this moment, to think back to the beginning of Randy's testimony when he first came into the Catholic Church, and so a priest challenged him to really engage the mission of the church in some way. And he wasn't working full time. He just stepped in. He had never been trained in youth ministry, but he wanted to respond to the moment. And he just kept saying yes to Jesus. And as he was doing that and engaging the mission, as the recent popes have called all of us to do, he discovered that the Lord had a deeper calling. And it's a deeper calling, and as I'm listening to it, I just can kind of feel the momentum. Friends, it's good for us to stop and look at the good stuff that's happening in the church and how it's growing in the power of the Holy Spirit, in part because of good leadership. Friends, join us again next week for another edition of The Choices We Face. God bless you.